Okay, good. So what we're going to go over this worksheet is what we're going to do. I don't know if you guys have printed them out and started working on them, if you finished them. For Saturday, make sure you bring this with you. You have to turn this in completed to get your blue card signed off. If it's not completed on Saturday, I just give you a partial, and then when you show me that you completed it, then we'll sign your blue cards off. So we're basically going to go through this kind of step by step. I'm going to emphasize on some of the most important practical parts that we really need to kind of pay attention on for general welding. It's kind of a crash course. You're not all going to be expert welders, but you'll learn the basics, and you're going to make a pretty cool project to take home after you're all finished. So anyways, so we can get started. The first one can explain to your counsel the hazards that you most likely incur while welding. Can somebody tell me any of those hazards? Anybody?
Burns.
Go ahead, Warren.
Burns.
I don't know how this works, so somebody just has to click in and go. Anybody want to give me a shot on that?
Burns.
I don't know who this is. Burns? Oh, okay. JJ. Okay, there it is down there. JJ. Yeah, burns is one of them. Anybody else have another hazard of welding?
You could shock yourself.
Cuts? Yeah, cuts is good. Anything else? Fire?
You could shock
Burned up
yourself.
here. Yeah, electric shock is also one of the hazards. You know, there's risk of explosions. They're minor. I don't know. All the years I've done it, I've never seen an explosion, but it's a very possible scenario. What are some of the, anybody know some of the ways of preventing some of these accidents? Go ahead, Warren.
You could like wear gloves and like thick clothes.
Yes, yes. Gloves will help. The biggest thing is just awareness. I think while you're welding is kind of the biggest key, making sure that there's no flammable liquids laying around as you're welding. And some of this will make more sense when you actually come to my physical shop, and you'll see, you know, because we do have flammable liquids around the shop, and you want to make sure that the welding areas are away from that stuff. Okay, let's go to 1B. Show that you know first aid and how to prevent injuries and illness while occurring in welding. Anybody, electric shock, how could you prevent electric shock? Anybody have an answer on that one? No? Don't touch the electrodes while you're welding. The electrode is what carries the current through to the metal to make the weld. So did you guys watch that History Channel show? Anybody? Give me a thumbs up if you watched that History Channel show. 3 of you guys did. It's a pretty interesting show, and it'll really give you a good insight on welding and some of the careers about welding that we don't, a lot of people don't know about. So, so if there's an injury, you know, what's the first thing you're going to do? Kind of almost every merit badge class. What's the first thing when you have an injury? What do you want to do? Call for help, right? Yeah, go Warren.
Yeah.
You want to seek some help, right? Call 911, get the instructor, counselors, things like that. And then if somebody's got electric shock, if somebody's getting shocked and they're getting electrocuted, what are you not going to do?
touch them?
Go ahead, Carl. Yeah, you don't want to touch them because you'll just complete the circuit and then now you'll be getting electrocuted too. So, another one of the biggest injuries is this next one, eye injuries. Can somebody tell me what they might think the most common eye injury is? Go ahead,
Like
Warren.
not wearing, like, blindness, I guess.
Yeah, it's like sunburn on your eyes. They call it flash burn. So if you're watching the welding arc without a helmet on, it burns the inside of your eye, and it takes about a week before you can start seeing again. So that's one of the most important parts is you don't ever want to be watching that without the correct helmet on and eye protection. Burns. There's several different kinds of burns. You can get it. Basically, the worst one that you guys might encounter, other than picking up a hot piece of metal and physically burning your hand, is going to be like a sunburn. It's the light from the arc on the welder will actually sunburn your skin. So like if you're wearing a short sleeve shirt and the glove only goes up past your wrist, the rest of your arm will get a real bad sunburn on it. So that's something that we want to prevent. We've got welding jackets to help prevent all that. The fumes. You're welding with gases and the gases and the electric arc emits gases, and those, if you're in a tight confined area, those could overwhelm you and make you nauseous. So what would you do if you were having to weld in a tight area and you started feeling nauseous? Go ahead, Warren.
Try going outside.
Yeah, try to go outside and get some fresh air. Yeah. And we'll be primarily welding outside so we don't encounter any of that type of stuff. Chemical. The filler metals are another thing that'll emit gases that'll kind of make you sick. Sometimes you'll go home with a sore throat. Hopefully you guys don't go home with a sore throat from breathing some of the welding gases. And, you know, because sometimes it can give you a little bit of a sore throat if you weld a bunch. So we won't be welding that much, so you guys all should be fine. All right, let's go to question 2.
And what do you do for flame inhalation?
Fume inhalation. So fume inhalation, you're going to basically go outside, get fresh air. If it's very, very bad where it makes you pass out, then we're generally going to call 911, get an ambulance or an EMT over there. They'll probably give you some straight oxygen and then, you know, get you back going again. The type of welding that we're going to be doing, the fumes are very, very minimal. There's basically nothing. It's the electrode welding, the stick welding that really emits a lot of the fumes that make you get nauseous. And we'll go over that later in the packet here. There's a thing called material safety data sheets. So everything that when you're using welders, they'll have these material data sheets. And basically what it does is it tells you exactly what you're working with. So if you're using electronic or electrodes, stick welding, it'll tell you exactly what that thing, how to use it correctly. Any questions you have about it will be in this little data sheet that that are normally stored in an office or something. But that's what material data sheet, it tells you exactly what you're working with and how to work with what materials you're using. So the gas has an material data sheet, the electrodes, the wire, Sometimes the metal that you're welding will have material data sheets on it. All of that, it's all kind of a safety precaution there. And we're not going to stick with that much. On B, describe appropriate safety gear clothing to be worn when welding. This is kind of the most important one that you have to pay attention to here.
Wait, what do we do for the data sheet?
What's that?
What do we do for the data sheet?
Don't spend a lot of time on the data sheet. It's just to kind of be aware of it, to know what one is.
So what should I write?
Well, look up in the book or something about material data sheets, and it'll tell you. It's basically a printout of whatever you're using. Say you're using the electronic electrode doing stick welding, and it'll come when you buy those electrodes. It'll have the material data sheet, and it'll tell you exactly what that electrode is made up of. It's like an ingredients list, or for better sake of a word, what is all involved in that. So say you were stick welding something at home inside the garage with the doors shut, and you got overcome by fumes, and then they rushed you to the hospital, and the doctor there says, what were you using? And if you had that material data sheet, you could hand it to him, and then he would know exactly how to treat you because he knows what he's working with. Does that make sense? And we can, if you have questions on that, we can go over that on Saturday. B is the one that is most critical. The safety gear and clothing. Okay. Eye protection, gloves, the welding helmet, shoes. How many of you guys have leather shoes, like hiking boots that are all leather? Or do you have hiking boots that have a lot of nylon webbing on them? So shoes with nylon, in the past, the kids would show up here and they'd have tennis shoes on with nylon webbing, kind of like all tennis shoes are. They have the nylon webbing with a little bit of leather around them. So when you're welding, the sparks fly off the table, and where do they go? Which way are sparks and debris going to go? Down, right?
Onto your shoe.
They're going to go down towards your shoes, and they're hot. So when back in your early scouting days, when you were told to tie your knots and stuff, and you were lighting the end of the nylon cord with the lighter to get it to ball up, and melt. You can see what these hot little embers do when they go down and they hit your nylon shoes. They go right through it and they stick to your skin, and it puts a nice big burn mark on your foot. So you probably don't want to show up with nylon shoes on. Try to find a better type of shoe than tennis shoes that are nylon. Vans tennis shoes, where they're all canvas, those are a lot better than a nylon running shoe. Okay. Jackets and gloves I'll have for you. That's very important to keep the burns away. You should wear long pants and long sleeve shirt. It's not going to be I've been watching the weather. It's going to be a little cooler, so we're not going to completely roast out. It's only the last session might get a little warm. You want to have long pants and a long sleeve cotton shirt. Okay, that's going to be your best protection for welding. Okay. It's explain and demonstrate the proper storage of welding equipment. So proper storage is kind of how you guys take care of your own stuff. If you have say, I don't know how many of you have cell phones, but you're not going to take your cell phone and just throw it onto the ground when you're not using it, right? You're going to put it away somewhere where it won't get hurt. It's the same with these welders. When you're done welding, kind of hang the handle up. Don't let it fall over and hit the floor. We're going to try to take care of the equipment and That way it lasts, you know, for many classes to come. And it's just common sense, you know, paying attention, taking care of stuff. Okay, let's go on to the question 3. Explain the terms of welding, electrode, slag, and oxidation. What is welding? Can somebody tell me what is welding? Okay, Warren. Warren's my go-to guy.
When you're combining like 2 bits of steel together, and then it heats the atoms up so much that it combines them together, and then they're stronger together.
Yes, good. Basically, the joining of 2 pieces of material. Those of you that watched that Modern Marvels show, you'll see in the end of that, it's not just metal. They have a whole section on welding plastic together, where they do plastic welding. So it's not isolated to just metal. So keep in mind on that too. The electrode, is the part that is actually heating the material. So the electricity is coming through the electrode. The electrode can be several things. It can be a stick, or it can be a piece of wire, or in the heliarc it's just an actual piece of tungsten. So there's 3 different types of electrodes. And the electrode is where the heat is generated to do the actual welding. Slag is a coating. It's the coating that's on the rods to seal the oxygen away from the weld when you're welding on a stick welding. And that's all on the electrode stick welding, where it's a big long stick and it's an arc welding method. The MIG welding, which we're going to primarily be working with, is a wire with a gas, and the gas, it doesn't create the slag. But we're going to have 3 different types of welders there. The first one is called a flux core welder. And that one creates the slag, so that'll show you the differences between those. Okay. Describe the welding process. Okay. So there's 4 different types of welding processes that you should be aware of. So we're down at kind of the end of 3 here on your sheets. You've got the shielded metal arc. So that's the stick welding, what we call stick welding. Okay, we won't really do any stick welding just because it's not it's more for structural steel, building buildings and whatnot. So we're not going to focus on that, but it's good to be aware of it. We'll show you what it is Saturday. You've got gas welding, where it's called gas metal arc, MIG welding. That's primarily what we're going to be using, where it's gas with a wire that's fed through a gun, and it's a continuous feed of wire. And then the gas tungsten arc, or what they call heliarc, is where it's a tungsten rod creating the heat, and then you add your filler rod to the side of it, kind of the side of it, but it's a 2-handed process where you're adding your filler rod with one hand and running the electrode with the other hand. And then you've got the oxyacetylene welding, where it's 2 gases and it's a flame, and the flame is heating it up, and then you add your rod, your filler rod to that. So we'll go over all 4 of those. I have all 4 of those set up at the shop, and we're going to do all 4 of them. There's also the different types of thermal cutting. You have oxygen acetylene cutting. Have anybody seen that where it's a torch and they can cut the metal with a flame? And then you have plasma cutting. There's another form of cutting, and we'll have that set up at the shop too, where you can plasma cut with an electric arc. And then you've got your sawing and the water jet cutting is kind of what I do at my shop, and we'll have that on demonstration too to show you how to cut different metals. So those are the main types of cutting. All right. Flip pages there. So it says to choose one method and describe how to use that process. So that's something you guys can kind of fill out as you, between now and Saturday, if you haven't already done it. You can just kind of pick one of the methods and just describe how you're gonna go about it. If you watch that show, all these questions are all in there and they're very easy to pick out. Discuss some of the advantages and limitations of that same process that you were working on. So to give you an example, if you're doing the oxygen acetylene welding with the gas torch and adding your filler rod, it's kind of slow and cumbersome and it's very difficult, versus using the MIG welder. It's very fast and efficient, and you can get a lot more done in the same amount of time between the two welding processes. Gas welding, one of the limitations, it's hard to learn, where MIG welding is very easy to learn. So that's kind of why we teach it. But there are some metals that you have to use gas welding on. Some of the brass materials that you're going to use the gas welding on. Okay, do the following. Select two welding processes, make a list of different components and processes. That's something you guys can do just on your own there. You know, pick a process and kind of go over those. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. Welding processes, choose one. So then basically, let me see here. So section 6 we're going to be doing Saturday. 7, do the following. Find out 3 career opportunities in the welding industry. Okay. In that modern marbles deal, there was probably 4 or 5 different careers that you could come up with. A lot of interesting ones other than just being a regular pipe fitter or welder, you know, working on an oil field or something. There's a lot of, you know, a lot of careers, a lot of specialty welding that that are highly sought after careers for if you're into welding and want to go into that welding field. But that again, take a look at that show and you'll have that on there. And the rest of those are all kind of on that. Discuss rule. The American Welding Society, that's kind of the governing body of welding. So if you're working out on a project with somebody, they're going to make you have a license so they know that you know how to weld correctly. And the American Welding Society is the one that kind of controls all that to make sure that when you're welding that you're getting it done properly, and the techniques that you're using are the right ones for that application. So that's kind of a quick scenario on the American Welding Society. Does anybody have any questions so far? Any questions?
So, I have a question.
Who's that? JJ, go ahead.
You can go. You can go. Okay. So what do we write for the third one? For the career opportunities?
Well, the career opportunities, you need to kind of do a little research and find one that interests you. So if you watch that show, they have about 4 or 5 different career opportunities for welding, and you could put something in there. I can't really tell you an answer to put in there. It's kind of up to you what you want to put in there for a career on welding. And just kind of pick something and maybe say why it might interest you.
What type of
Like I said-
welding do you do?
I'm sorry, say that again. Who's talking?
What type of
Victoria?
welding do you do?
I do mostly heliarc welding because it's kind of a specialty welding. We're welding engine components and kind of prototype parts where it's a real fine-tuned welding. But I have welding, I'm a fabricator by trade, so I have all the processes to do everything. And when you get to the shop there, I'm going to show you different processes and how those different things are welded, and it'll help explain to you a little bit more about welding. Anybody else have any questions? No more questions? Anybody? So basically, what you guys need to really consider is, we only have 2.5 hours to do the practical part of this merit badge class. And as I said before, it's kind of a crash course deal. But you will go home with a really cool project, and it'll be something I think that you guys will be proud of. But we have to kind of cram it into like about a 2-hour session, which should be fine because we're only doing 4 of you at a time. But I don't want them to run into the next 4 people's deal. So we're going to have to make sure you're there on time and then kind of be prepared. Make sure you have long sleeve shirts, long pants, and hopefully not tennis shoes with nylon on them. Nylon windbreakers. One time it was cold. We had a lot of people with nylon windbreakers. That's not a good thing. Cotton hoodies is the best, is a lot better dress wear for welding, okay? What else am I gonna tell you guys? The main thing is, like I say, be there on time. I have blue cards up there for your merit badge stuff. Like I said, make sure you bring these packets and get them filled out the best you can. And then pet peeve of mine is don't have your mom fill out your blue card or your sheets. And then I'm not sure what else. Nobody else has any other questions? Did everybody get the address and everything to where you're going on Saturday? You guys all got the emails? Or did your mom get them? Okay. Everybody's okay? All right. Okay, I'm going to mute myself and then.
Okay. All right, Scouts. As Andy said, your parents received an email with the address to his shop called Myers Machinery. It is in Pasadena. And when Anthony talked to your parents on the phone to schedule your time, he let them know that parking is limited. So if anything get dropped off and your parents can go find a parking spot, I think there's a nearby Ralph's or something they can park in, parking lot. And then I'll let Auntie discuss that part in a minute. But make sure on arrival, you need to have your medical form. And I will send that, I'll send an email of this just so you guys know what your parents are gonna get on their email. You need a medical form, which you should always have with you as a scout anyway. A part A and B. It's just a basic, not the physical, just a, you know, to give us permission for you to be able to use the machine. We have to have the medical form. You will have to get your temperature taken when you show up. I will take your temperature on your forehead. So if you have a hat on, I'm gonna say to move your hat. Other than that, the paperwork, like he said, this is recorded. If anybody needs to have this link to this, to fill out any of the paperwork that Andy discussed, send me an email or a chat right now and say, hey, send me the link to this video so I can record my answers, because he will look at it on Saturday. Also, on Saturday at 8 a.m. to 10:30, I have scheduled Caitlin, Carly, and JJ. Okay, you guys are all from 8 to 10:30. Like he said, be on time. That means show up at 7:45, ready to start at 8 o'clock. Okay? At 11 o'clock to 1:30 is Warren, Henry, Dina, and Rachel. Okay, you four are at 11 o'clock. Okay? You might want to eat something before you come because you are there during the lunch time. So make sure you have a good breakfast before you show up. At 2 o'clock to 4:30, I have Victoria, Juan, and I'm gonna probably pronounce your name wrong, but Arcani from 224. Okay, you three are from 2 o'clock to 4:30. Okay, 15 minutes early, please, so that you're ready to start on time. All right, have your blue card with you. If you don't have it, we have some, so don't stress about that. Have your workbook with you, you know, the worksheet with the answers ready to go. Okay, he will review them really quick, or Ranger Anthony or somebody, and we'll check that off. If you have any questions about anything else, I will send an email also about the long pants, long sleeve shirt, the proper shoes. And again, Saturday's weather is going to be awesome. It's only supposed to get to like 75. So wearing a cotton hoodie would be awesome. Okay, he's gonna have all the other gear available, you know, your helmet and all that stuff. Andy has all of it, and that you don't have to bring anything else. There'll be gloves and everything, so everything's ready to go. All right. Other than that, so I will turn it back over to Andy so he can discuss the parking, so you can let your parents know.
Okay, everybody's hear me now? So there's 4 or 5 parking spots in my building there that you can park in, that they can pull in and park. And there's a burger stand right across the street from me. And you can also park in there. I let him know that I'm gonna have some people coming by, and then you can park across the street in the burger stand there, or on the street anywhere too is fine also. And if your parents want to stay, that's fine. If they want to just drop you off and leave and come back, that's also fine. Parents are more than welcome to stay and hang out and watch, and maybe they'll learn too. Like I said, the temperature is going to be really good. We should have good weather. Just like I say, just be punctual so we can get through all of the kids at the end of the session, so I don't end up there till 6 o'clock at night trying to finish the merit badge class.
I put the poll results online here, so you can see.
Yeah, okay. So it looks like some of you guys have got all that stuff. Like I say, if you can, if you can watch that show, it's very informative and it's very interesting. Normally when we teach the class, when you first get here, we watch that show, and then we kind of go over the pamphlet. Then it makes a lot more sense on some of the questions that they're asking you in the pamphlet as far as the career stuff goes, the types of welding, and what opportunities there are out there in that field. There are a lot of things that you would never guess that are welding procedures. There's one on that called explosion welding, how they make some materials for like the space shuttles and stuff, and they use this explosion welding. It's very, very fascinating. So make sure you try to watch that. And then, like I say, we'll get there. And if you're sick, make sure you stay home. There'll be other chances, if you're feeling sick or something, because we definitely don't want to get anybody else sick. But I think you'll have a good time. It'll be fun. I think you'll get some really good knowledge about welding and what you can make and how different things are made. So, any other questions? There's no sign on my building. So you're going to go down Walnut Street and you're just going to see an address number on the north side of the street. You're going to be, I think I left 1113, but it's 1113 and 1117. So those are the two address buildings that you're going to pull into. You're going to pull into the parking lot at 1117. Okay? That's the actual physical building. It's pretty easy to see, but there's no big signs or anything, just a big address number. You won't be able to miss it. Should be good. Any questions? No? Okay. All's good? Okay, guys. Then I'll look forward to seeing you guys on Saturday, and I think you'll have a good time. Okay, signing out.
All right, so again, make sure you bring the paperwork. And like he said, if you don't feel good, by all means, please stay home. You can get credit for this part, and we can do the in-person another part if for some reason you don't feel good. In a few months, it won't be right away. But we don't want anybody coming that does not feel well. All right? So if you're all good, you're free to go. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.